It was a typical Thursday morning, and I was just wrapping up a meeting at work when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen to see my daughter's school number. Confused, I answered quickly, my heart pounding a bit faster than usual. "Mr. Thomas?" came the voice of my daughter's teacher, Miss Smith. "Your daughter isn't feeling well. Could you come pick her up immediately?" I promised to be there as soon as possible and hung up, my mind racing. I tried calling my wife, Megan, multiple times, but each call went straight to voicemail. Typical, I thought. She was always unreachable when it mattered most. I hurried to the school, picking up my daughter and taking her to the doctor. It turned out to be a minor stomach bug, nothing serious. Once I got her settled at home with some soup and cartoons, I couldn't shake the frustration of not being able to reach Megan. I decided to pay her a surprise visit at work, thinking it might finally make her realize she needed to be more available. When I arrived at her office building, my stomach churned with an odd sense of dread. I walked through the entrance, greeted by the sterile smell of office air conditioning and the quiet hum of productivity. I made my way to her department, my heart racing as I approached her desk. It was empty. "She might be in the break room," a coworker suggested, pointing me in the right direction. I headed down the hallway towards the break room, but as I got closer, I heard soft giggles and whispers. The door was slightly ajar, and I peeked inside, my blood turning to ice. There she was, Megan, in the arms of a man I didn't recognize. They were locked in a passionate embrace, completely oblivious to the world around them. My jaw dropped, and a wave of nausea hit me. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted for years, was cheating on me right here at her workplace. Anger and betrayal surged through me, and before I could stop myself, I burst into the room. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. Megan and her lover sprang apart, their faces a mix of shock and guilt. Megan's eyes widened as she saw me, but she quickly regained her composure, her expression turning cold. "Jack, it's not what it looks like," she stammered, but the lie was evident in her voice. I couldn't contain my fury. "Not what it looks like? You're in his arms, Megan. How long has this been going on?" Her lover, a smug-looking guy with a neatly trimmed beard, stepped forward, trying to play the hero. "Hey man, calm down. Let's talk about this." "Shut up," I snapped, my eyes never leaving Megan's. "How long, Megan?" She hesitated, then finally admitted, "A few months." A few months. My mind reeled. How could she betray me like this? I had always suspected something was off, but I never imagined this. I turned to leave, needing to get out of there before I did something I'd regret. As I walked away, Megan called after me, but I didn't stop. My mind was already racing with thoughts of revenge. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together, laughing at my expense. I knew I had to take control of the situation, to show Megan that I wasn't someone to be trifled with. And so I began to plan my revenge. If she thought she could get away with betraying me, she had another thing coming. This was just the beginning. Part 2, the discovery. The days that followed were a whirlwind of anger, planning, and sleepless nights. I couldn't look at Megan without seeing her in that bastard's arms. Her lies were like poison, seeping into every moment of our life together. Megan, true to her nature, tried to act as if nothing had happened. She came home every evening, plastering on a smile, asking about my day, and making small talk over dinner. It was infuriating, watching her pretend, knowing what I knew. I couldn't confront her directly yet. I needed more information, more evidence to make my move. One evening, while Megan was in the shower, I seized the opportunity to snoop through her phone. My hands shook as I navigated through her messages and emails, half expecting her to catch me any second. I found a string of texts between her and her lover, a guy named Eric. The messages were sickeningly sweet and explicit, filled with plans for secret meetups and reminiscing about their time together. My blood boiled, but I kept my cool. I took screenshots of everything, sending them to my own phone for safekeeping. I needed undeniable proof to expose her lies and deceit. The next morning, Megan left for work with a cheery goodbye, completely unaware of the storm brewing. I took the day off from work, telling my boss I had a family emergency. In a way, I wasn't lying. This was the biggest emergency I had ever faced. I drove to Eric's apartment, determined to confront him directly. My fists clenched around the steering wheel as I parked and walked up to his door. I pounded on it, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction at the sound of my anger echoing in the hallway. The door opened, and there stood Eric, looking as smug as ever. "Jack, right?" he said with a smirk. "What brings you here?" Without a word, I shoved my phone in his face, showing him the screenshots of their messages. His smirk faltered, but only slightly. "You think you can just sleep with my wife and get away with it?" I growled. "You think you're untouchable?" Eric's expression turned cold. "Look, Jack, it's not personal. Megan and we just connected. You should talk to her, not me." "Talk to her?" I snapped. "You're as guilty as she is. You both deserve to face the consequences." He shrugged, his indifference fueling my rage. "Fine. Do what you have to do, but Megan doesn't want you. She wants me." I punched him, a solid blow to his jaw. He staggered back, clutching his face, but I wasn't done. I grabbed him by the collar, shaking him. "Stay away from my wife. This is your final warning." Leaving him in a heap, I stormed out, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. The next step was to confront Megan with the evidence. She couldn't lie her way out of this one. That evening, I waited for her to come home, the screenshots printed and laid out on the dining table. When she walked in, she froze, her eyes darting from the evidence to my face. "Jack, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. I stood up, facing her. "It's your lies, Megan, your betrayal. How long did you think you could keep this up?" Her facade crumbled, and she burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Jack. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I said coldly. "You destroyed our marriage. You destroyed me." We argued late into the night, her tears and pleas falling on deaf ears. I was done being the fool. I needed to protect myself, to get out of this mess she had created. The next morning, I contacted a divorce lawyer. Megan's betrayal would not go unpunished. This was just the beginning of her reckoning. Days turned into weeks, and I became a master of deception. Megan's attempts to mend our broken marriage were met with cold indifference. She had no idea that I was already several steps ahead, meticulously plotting her downfall. Each interaction was a reminder of her betrayal, and I couldn't wait to unveil my ultimate plan. One evening, as Megan was busy making dinner, I slipped out to meet my lawyer, Carla. A no-nonsense professional, she had a reputation for being ruthless in the courtroom. I laid out the evidence I had gathered, and she nodded approvingly. "This is solid, Jack," she said. "With this evidence, we can ensure you get a favorable settlement. We'll need to dig deeper into her finances and see if there's anything else we can use." I left Carla's office feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. Megan thought she could lie her way through this, but she was about to learn a harsh lesson in consequences. A few days later, I got another unexpected call, this time from Megan's friend Emily. She sounded distressed and hesitant, but after some coaxing, she agreed to meet me for coffee. "I don't know how to say this, Jack," she began, stirring her drink nervously. "Megan's been lying to you about more than just her affair with Eric." I leaned in, my interest piqued. "What do you mean?" Emily took a deep breath. "She's been siphoning money from your joint account for months. I didn't want to get involved, but I can't stand seeing you being deceived any longer." I felt a new wave of betrayal wash over me. "Do you have proof?" She nodded, handing me a USB drive. "I managed to get this from her laptop. It's all there. Bank statements, transactions, everything." I thanked Emily and left, my mind racing. Megan's deceit knew no bounds. She had not only betrayed our marriage but also jeopardized our financial stability. I needed to act quickly. That night, I confronted Megan with the new evidence. As expected, she tried to deny it, her lies unraveling with every word. "I was going to tell you, Jack," she said, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know how." "You didn't know how?" I scoffed. "You didn't know how to be honest? How to be faithful? You've destroyed everything, Megan." Her facade of remorse was infuriating. I couldn't stand to look at her. The woman I had married was gone, replaced by this deceitful stranger. As she continued to plead, I made a decision. I couldn't let her walk away from this unscathed. It was time for my revenge to take shape. The following day, I made a call to Megan's boss, under the pretense of discussing an upcoming work event. Casual conversation led me to subtly drop hints about her frequent absences and suspicious behavior. He sounded concerned, promising to look into it. I knew Megan's job was important to her, and losing it would be a significant blow. Next, I hired a private investigator to follow her and Eric. I needed more ammunition, more proof of their ongoing affair. It didn't take long for the investigator to gather damning evidence, photos, videos, and detailed reports of their meetings. Armed with this new evidence, I returned to Carla. She was impressed, ready to go full throttle with the divorce proceedings. "Jack, this will not only secure a favorable settlement for you, but also ensure she gets nothing more than what she deserves," Carla assured me. I felt a sense of grim determination. Megan had underestimated me, but she was about to face the full force of my retribution. That evening, I confronted Megan for the last time. "I've filed for divorce, and I have all the evidence I need to ensure you get nothing. You're going to lose everything, Megan." Her eyes widened in shock and fear. "Jack, please, we can work this out. Think about everything we've been through." "I have," I replied coldly, "and I've realized you're not worth fighting for." The reality of her situation finally hit her. As she broke down, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The woman who had destroyed my life was now facing the consequences of her actions. This was just the beginning. Megan's world was about to crumble, and I would be there to witness every moment of it. The divorce proceedings were in full swing, and Megan's despair was palpable. Her once confident demeanor had crumbled, replaced by a constant state of anxiety and desperation. Every time I saw her, it was a reminder of how far she had fallen. I spent my days meticulously planning my next moves, ensuring every detail was covered. The private investigator continued to provide updates, feeding me more evidence of Megan and Eric's ongoing affair. They were careful, but not careful enough. It was only a matter of time before they slipped up completely. One afternoon, I received a call from Carla. "Jack, we've got a court date," she informed me. "And with the evidence we have, Megan doesn't stand a chance." "Good," I replied, feeling a sense of satisfaction. "Let's make sure she pays for everything." A few days before the court date, I decided to pay Megan a visit at her office. I wanted to see her face to face one last time before the storm hit. As I walked into the building, I felt a mix of anger and anticipation. This was the place where her deceit had flourished, where she had found comfort in the arms of another man. I approached her desk, and as expected, she wasn't there. One of her colleagues pointed me towards the break room, and my heart raced as I made my way there. The door was slightly open, and I heard voices inside. I pushed it open and walked in, my presence immediately noticed. Megan was there, standing too close to Eric, their body language betraying their intimacy. Her eyes widened when she saw me, and she quickly stepped away from him. "Jack, what are you doing here?" she stammered, trying to compose herself. "I wanted to see you before the court date," I replied coldly, my eyes locking onto Eric. "I hope you're ready for what's coming." Eric tried to play it cool, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "You can't intimidate us, Jack. We're in this together." I chuckled darkly. "You have no idea what you're up against." Megan's face paled, and she looked like she was about to say something, but I turned and left before she could. I had made my point. They knew I wasn't backing down. The court date arrived quickly, and Megan and I sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. Carla was by my side, her confidence a stark contrast to Megan's nervous attorney. The evidence we had gathered was overwhelming, and as it was presented, I watched Megan's facade crumble piece by piece. Photos, videos, bank statements, all laid bare for the court to see. Megan's deceit was exposed in all its sordid detail. Her attorney tried to mitigate the damage, but it was futile. The judge's expression grew sterner with each new piece of evidence. When it was Megan's turn to speak, she broke down in tears, pleading for leniency. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "I never meant to hurt Jack. I don't know what I was thinking." But her tears did nothing to sway the judge. The ruling was swift and decisive. I was granted a favorable settlement, and Megan was left with nothing but the consequences of her actions. As we left the courtroom, Megan approached me, her eyes red and swollen. "Jack, please," she begged. "Can't we find a way to work this out?" I looked at her, feeling nothing but a cold detachment. "There's nothing left to work out, Megan. You destroyed everything we had." She collapsed into sobs, but I turned away, walking out of the courtroom with Carla. The weight of betrayal was finally lifting, replaced by a sense of closure. But I wasn't done yet. Megan still had her job, and I knew that losing it would be the final nail in the coffin. I called her boss again, this time with the full details of her affair and her financial misconduct. It didn't take long for them to take action. A week later, Megan was fired. She called me in a state of hysteria, but I ignored her calls. I had nothing left to say to her. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction as I watched her life fall apart. She had underestimated me, thinking she could lie and cheat without facing the consequences. But she was wrong. I had taken control. And now she was the one left to pick up the pieces. The chapter with Megan was closing, but I knew that moving forward wouldn't be easy. The scars of her betrayal would take time to heal, but I was ready to start anew. This was my chance to rebuild, to find happiness again, and I wasn't going to let her past actions hold me back. As I stood in the remnants of our shattered life, I felt a newfound sense of freedom. Megan's deceit had been a dark chapter, but it was over. Now it was time to turn the page and embrace the future. With the divorce finalized and Megan's life in ruins, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. It was like a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I was finally free to rebuild my life without the shadow of her betrayal hanging over me. However, moving on wasn't as straightforward as I had hoped. The scars of Megan's infidelity were deep, and trust was something I found hard to give. But I knew I couldn't let her actions define my future. I needed to reclaim my life and happiness. I threw myself into work, taking on new projects and responsibilities. My colleagues noticed the change in me, and while some were aware of my personal struggles, most just saw a man determined to succeed. The distraction helped, and for a while I could almost forget the pain. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, I decided to stop by a local bar for a drink. It was a quiet place, not too crowded, and I found a seat at the bar. As I sipped my drink, I noticed a woman sitting a few seats away, glancing at me occasionally. She was attractive, with a kind smile that seemed to invite conversation. "Rough day?" she asked, moving to the seat next to me. I chuckled. "You could say that. Just needed to unwind a bit." We struck up a conversation, and I learned her name was Lisa. She was a graphic designer, recently moved to the city for a new job. There was an easy chemistry between us, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely relaxed and happy. As the night went on, we exchanged stories about our lives, our work, and our past relationships. I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't with anyone else since Megan. It felt good to talk, to share, and to listen. By the end of the evening, we had exchanged numbers, promising to meet up again soon. As I walked home, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for a new beginning. Our second date was even better than the first. We went to a cozy little restaurant, sharing a bottle of wine and laughing over stories from our childhoods. Lisa was smart, funny, and genuinely kind. She was everything Megan wasn't, and being with her felt like a breath of fresh air. As weeks turned into months, our relationship grew stronger. We spent weekends exploring the city, hiking in the nearby mountains, and just enjoying each other's company. Lisa understood my past, and she never pushed me to move faster than I was comfortable with. She was patient and understanding, and for that, I was grateful. One evening, as we sat on her balcony watching the sunset, she turned to me with a serious expression. "Jack, I know you've been through a lot, and I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. You don't have to face this alone." Her words touched me deeply, and for the first time I felt ready to let go of the past. "Thank you, Lisa," I said, taking her hand. You've been amazing. I don't know where I'd be without you. She smiled, squeezing my hand gently. We all have our battles, Jack. But together, we can face anything. With Lisa by my side, I began to heal. The nightmares of Megan's betrayal slowly faded, replaced by dreams of a future filled with love and happiness. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Months later, I received a call from Emily. She sounded hesitant, almost afraid to talk to me. Jack, I don't know how to say this, but Megan's not doing well. She's lost everything. Her job, her home. She's staying with friends, but it's not a good situation. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant, to relish in her downfall. But another part of me, the part that had loved her once, felt a pang of sympathy. Despite everything, I couldn't completely turn off my humanity. Thanks for letting me know, Emily, I said. But I can't get involved. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. Emily sighed. I understand, Jack. I just thought you should know. I hung up, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Megan's life was a mess, and while I felt some satisfaction in that, I also felt a twinge of pity. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Lisa noticed my somber mood that evening and asked what was wrong. I told her about the call, and she listened quietly, her hand resting on mine. You're a good man, Jack, she said softly. It's okay to feel conflicted. It shows you still have a heart. Her words reassured me, and I realized she was right. Moving on didn't mean erasing the past. It meant accepting it and finding a way to live with it. As time went on, Lisa and I grew even closer. We talked about our future, about moving in together, and even about starting a family someday. The idea of a fresh start, a new chapter filled with love and trust, was something I had once thought impossible. But with Lisa, it felt not only possible, but inevitable. Megan's shadow still lingered, but it no longer dominated my life. I had faced her betrayal, sought my revenge, and come out stronger on the other side. Now, it was time to build something new, something real, with someone who truly cared about me. And so, as the sun set on another day, I held Lisa close, ready to embrace the future and leave the past behind. The road ahead might be uncertain, but with Lisa by my side, I knew I could face anything. Life with Lisa was everything I could have hoped for and more. We were planning our future, building a life together filled with trust, love, and genuine happiness. I had finally moved on from Megan's betrayal and was excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. One Saturday morning, as Lisa and I were enjoying breakfast, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was an unknown number. I usually ignored such calls, but something compelled me to answer this one. Hello? I said, trying to keep the annoyance out of my voice. Jack, it's Emily, came the familiar voice. I'm sorry to bother you, but you need to know something. What is it, Emily? I asked, feeling a knot of dread forming in my stomach. Megan's not taking things well. She's been spiraling ever since the divorce and losing her job. She's been making some dangerous decisions. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Emily, I appreciate your concern, but Megan's choices are her own. She needs to face the consequences of her actions. I know, Emily said, her voice shaky. But there's more. She's been talking about you. A lot. And not in a good way. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? She blames you for everything. The divorce, losing her job, her financial problems. She's convinced that you're the root of all her troubles, and she's been saying some pretty disturbing things. I think she might try to come after you. I felt a chill run down my spine. Come after me? What are you saying? Emily hesitated. I don't know for sure, but she's been drinking a lot and she's very unstable. I just thought you should be aware. Be careful, Jack. I thanked Emily and hung up, my mind racing. Megan coming after me? It sounded like a bad movie plot, but I couldn't ignore the warning. I had seen firsthand how vindictive she could be. Lisa noticed my tense expression and reached out to hold my hand. What's wrong, Jack? I told her about the call, about Megan's deteriorating state and Emily's warning. Lisa listened carefully, her brow furrowed in concern. "We should be cautious," she said. "Make sure we're safe. Maybe talk to the police, just in case." I nodded, appreciating her calm and practical approach. "I'll do that. We can't take any chances." That afternoon, I went to the local police station and explained the situation. They took my concerns seriously and advised me to file a restraining order against Megan. I filled out the necessary paperwork, hoping it would be enough to keep her at bay. For a while, things seemed to settle down. Lisa and I continued with our lives, but there was an underlying tension, a sense of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every unexpected noise, every unknown number calling my phone, sent my heart racing. One evening, Lisa and I decided to go out for dinner at a cozy restaurant we both loved. We were laughing and enjoying each other's company when I noticed a figure lurking outside the window. My heart stopped as I recognized Megan's disheveled appearance. She was staring at us, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and desperation. "Lisa, we need to leave," I said, my voice low and urgent. Lisa followed my gaze and her face paled. We quickly paid the bill and slipped out through a side door, avoiding Megan. I could feel her eyes on us, but I didn't look back. When we got home, Lisa was visibly shaken. "This is getting out of hand, Jack. We need to do something." "I know," I replied, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "I'll talk to Carla. We need to take stronger action." The next day, I met with Carla and explained the situation. She agreed that we needed to act quickly and suggested hiring a security company to install cameras around our home and increase our overall safety measures. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it would help us feel more secure. The security team came the following week, setting up cameras and sensors. They showed us how to use the system, ensuring we could monitor everything from our phones. It was a relief to have an extra layer of protection, but the sense of unease remained. Despite the precautions, Megan continued to make her presence known. She sent threatening messages, left voicemails filled with venomous accusations, and even showed up at my workplace once, causing a scene before security escorted her out. Each incident was reported to the police, but there was only so much they could do. The final straw came one night when Lisa and I were woken by the sound of shattering glass. I jumped out of bed, my heart pounding, and rushed downstairs to find a brick lying in our living room surrounded by shards of broken window. Attached to the brick was a note in Megan's handwriting. "You took everything from me. Now it's my turn." Lisa was terrified, and I was beyond furious. This had to stop. I called the police, and they arrived quickly, taking the note and the brick as evidence. They assured us they would increase patrols in our neighborhood and urged us to stay vigilant. The next day, I called Carla and told her everything that had happened. "We need to take this to the next level," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "Megan has gone too far." Carla agreed, and we filed for an emergency protection order, which would hopefully keep Megan at a distance. But I knew we couldn't rely solely on legal measures. I needed to confront Megan one last time and make it clear that her reign of terror was over. I arranged to meet her in a public place, where I knew she couldn't pull any stunts. When she arrived, she looked worse than ever, disheveled, eyes wild with desperation. "What do you want, Jack?" she snapped, her voice filled with bitterness. "I want you to stop," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This has to end, Megan. You're destroying yourself, and you're not going to drag me or Lisa down with you." She laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "You think you can just walk away from this? From what you did to me?" "You did this to yourself," I shot back. "You made your choices. Now you have to live with them. But if you come near us again, I will make sure you face the full consequences." For a moment, she seemed to waver, but then her eyes hardened. "You haven't seen the last of me, Jack." As I walked away, I knew the fight wasn't over. Megan was a storm that wouldn't easily pass, but I was ready to face whatever came next. I had Lisa, and together we would weather this storm and come out stronger on the other side. The battle for peace wasn't over, but I had no doubt we would win. The days that followed were tense and filled with anxiety. Every knock on the door, every ring of the phone sent waves of dread through me and Lisa. Megan's threat loomed over us like a dark cloud, but we were determined not to let her win. The emergency protection order provided some reassurance, but we knew it wasn't a foolproof solution. Megan's instability made her unpredictable, and we had to be prepared for anything. We continued to stay vigilant, always on high alert. One evening, I received a call from Carla. "Jack, I've been looking into Megan's recent activities," she said. "It appears she's been frequenting some rather questionable places and associating with some unsavory characters. This could be useful in our case." "Thanks, Carla," I replied. "I appreciate all you're doing. We need to put an end to this." "Stay strong, Jack," she said. "We're getting close." That night, as Lisa and I were getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number, but I had a sinking feeling I knew who it was from. I opened it to find a picture of Lisa and me taken from outside our house, along with a chilling message. "I'm always watching." Lisa saw the message over my shoulder and gasped. "This has to stop, Jack. We can't live like this." "I know," I said, feeling a surge of anger. "I'm going to handle this." The next morning I went to the police with the new evidence. They took it seriously and assured me they would increase their efforts to locate Megan and keep her away from us. Despite their reassurances, I felt a deep sense of frustration. It seemed like Megan was always one step ahead. A few days later, I got a call from Emily again. She sounded frantic. "Jack, you need to know something. Megan's been talking about doing something drastic. She's really lost it this time." "What do you mean, Emily?" I asked, my heart racing. "She's talking about coming to your house, confronting you and Lisa directly. She's not thinking straight. I'm really worried." I thanked Emily for the warning and hung up, feeling a sense of urgency. I needed to protect Lisa and myself from whatever Megan had planned. I immediately called the police, informing them of the new threat. They promised to send an officer to patrol our neighborhood and advised us to stay indoors and keep all doors and windows locked. That evening, Lisa and I sat in the living room, our nerves on edge. We had the security cameras pulled up on our phones, watching for any sign of Megan. The tension was palpable, and every sound seemed amplified. Hours passed, and just when we thought the night might pass uneventfully, the doorbell rang. We both froze, staring at each other in fear. "Stay here," I whispered to Lisa. "I'll see who it is." I cautiously approached the door, checking the security camera feed on my phone. There she was, Megan, standing on our doorstep looking disheveled and wild-eyed. I could see the madness in her eyes even through the camera lens. "Megan, go away!" I called through the door. "You're not welcome here." "Jack, please," she pleaded, her voice muffled. "I just want to talk. Let me in." "You need to leave," I said firmly. "I've called the police." Suddenly she started pounding on the door, screaming, "You ruined my life, Jack! You took everything from me! Let me in or I'll make you pay!" Lisa appeared beside me, her face pale. "Jack, we need to call the police again. She's out of control." I nodded, dialing 911 as Megan continued to rant and rave outside. The dispatcher assured me that officers were on their way, but it felt like an eternity waiting for them to arrive. Megan's screams grew more desperate and I could hear her kicking the door. "You can't hide from me! I'll find a way in!" Finally, the sound of sirens filled the air and I saw the flashing lights of police cars pulling up to our house. Officers quickly surrounded Megan, restraining her and pulling her away from the door. She fought them, screaming my name, but they managed to subdue her and lead her away. Lisa and I stood there, shaken but relieved. The nightmare was finally coming to an end. The next day, Carla called with an update. "Megan's been taken into custody and will be undergoing a psychiatric evaluation. Given her state, it's likely she'll be placed in a facility where she can get the help she needs." "Thank you, Carla," I said, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. Despite everything, I didn't want Megan to suffer. I just wanted her out of our lives. Lisa and I took a few days off work to recover from the ordeal. We spent time together, talking about our future and reaffirming our commitment to each other. The threat of Megan was finally gone, and we could focus on building a life free from fear and anxiety. Months passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Megan was kept in a secure facility, receiving the treatment she desperately needed. The legal proceedings were wrapped up, and the restraining order ensured she couldn't come near us again. Lisa and I grew stronger through the experience. Our bond was unbreakable, forged in the fire of adversity. We continued to plan our future. And one evening, as we watched the sunset from our balcony, I got down on one knee and proposed. Lisa, you've been my rock, my anchor through everything. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. Yes, Jack, 1,000 times yes. As we embraced, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. The dark chapter with Megan was finally closed, and a new, brighter one was beginning. We had faced the storm and emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Lisa and I dove into wedding planning with excitement and joy. It felt surreal to be starting this new chapter together, especially after everything we had been through. Our relationship had been tested in ways we never could have imagined, but we had come out the other side stronger and more in love than ever. As we moved forward, I made a conscious effort to put the past behind me. Megan was receiving the help she needed, and I had to accept that and focus on my future with Lisa. We decided to have a small, intimate wedding with just close friends and family, a celebration of our love and resilience. The day of the wedding arrived, and as I stood at the altar watching Lisa walk down the aisle, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She looked stunning in her dress, her smile radiant and full of happiness. When she reached me, we joined hands, and I knew without a doubt that this was where I was meant to be. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with heartfelt vows and joyous tears. As we exchanged rings and sealed our union with a kiss, the cheers of our loved ones echoed around us. It was a perfect moment, one I would cherish forever. The reception was held at a charming vineyard, with twinkling fairy lights and a warm, rustic atmosphere. We danced, laughed, and celebrated late into the night, surrounded by the people who had supported us through everything. As the evening wound down, Lisa and I slipped away to a quiet corner of the vineyard, holding each other close and watching the stars. This is just the beginning, she whispered, her eyes shining with love. Our adventure is only starting. I couldn't ask for a better partner, I replied, kissing her gently. I love you, Lisa. Life as newlyweds was blissful. We moved into a new home, a beautiful place where we could build our future together. It was a fresh start in every sense, free from the shadows of the past. We filled our days with love, laughter, and new experiences, savoring every moment. One day, a few months after the wedding, Lisa came home with a big smile on her face. Jack, I have some news, she said, her excitement palpable. What is it? I asked, curious. We're going to have a baby, she announced, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. My heart swelled with happiness, and I pulled her into a tight embrace. A baby! That's incredible, Lisa! I'm so happy! The news of our growing family brought a new level of joy and anticipation to our lives. We prepared for the arrival of our child with enthusiasm, decorating the nursery and making plans for the future. Every kick and flutter from Lisa's belly filled me with awe and excitement. As Lisa's due date approached, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. The dark days of betrayal and fear seemed like a distant memory, replaced by a profound sense of hope and love. The day finally arrived, and as I held our newborn daughter in my arms, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. She was perfect, a symbol of our love and the strength we had found together. Welcome to the world, little one, I whispered, tears of joy in my eyes. You're so loved. We named her Emily, after the friend who had helped us through some of our darkest times. She was a beacon of light in our lives, and we were determined to give her the best possible future. Parenthood brought its own set of challenges, but Lisa and I faced them together, united in our love for each other and our daughter. Watching Emily grow and discover the world was a constant source of wonder and joy. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Emily sleeping peacefully in her crib, Lisa took my hand. We've come so far, Jack. I'm so grateful for everything we have. Me too, I replied, squeezing her hand. I wouldn't trade our journey for anything. As I looked around at our home, our family, and the life we had built, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The past had shaped us, but it didn't define us. We had found our way through the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever the future held. With Lisa and Emily by my side, I knew I could handle anything. Our story was one of resilience, love, and new beginnings, and I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. Life had settled into a beautiful routine with Lisa and Emily. Our days were filled with the laughter of our growing daughter and the quiet moments of contentment that come with a strong, loving marriage. I felt like the luckiest man alive, having navigated through the storm and found peace on the other side. However, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. One evening, as Lisa and I were preparing dinner, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I frowned, glancing at the screen. It wasn't often I got calls from numbers I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I answered, putting the phone on speaker so I could continue chopping vegetables. "Is this Jack Thomas?" a stern voice asked. "Yes, this is he," I replied, exchanging a curious glance with Lisa. "This is Detective Harris from the local police department. We need you to come down to the station regarding a matter involving Megan Foster." My heart skipped a beat. "Megan, what's going on?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss details over the phone. Please come to the station as soon as possible." I hung up, a sense of dread settling over me. Lisa looked concerned. "What do you think it's about?" "I don't know," I said, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "But I need to find out." At the station, Detective Harris greeted me and led me to a small interrogation room. He had a stack of files in front of him, and his expression was serious. "Mr. Thomas, I appreciate you coming in. I'll get straight to the point. Megan Foster has been released from the psychiatric facility and has been implicated in a series of disturbing incidents." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. "What kind of incidents?" "Stalking, harassment, and several instances of breaking and entering. Her behavior has escalated, and we believe she might pose a threat to you and your family." My mind raced. But I thought she was getting help. How did this happen? "She was released after showing significant improvement, but it appears she's relapsed. We're keeping a close watch on her, but I wanted to make sure you're aware and take any necessary precautions." I left the station feeling a mix of anger and fear. Megan was back, and she was more unstable than ever. I couldn't let her disrupt our lives again. When I got home, Lisa could see the worry etched on my face. "What did they say?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Megan's out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And she's been causing trouble. They think she might come after us." Lisa's eyes widened in fear. "What do we do?" "We take every precaution," I said firmly. "We make sure the house is secure and we stay vigilant. We're not going to let her disrupt our lives again." We immediately took steps to reinforce our home security. We upgraded our alarm system, added more cameras, and even considered moving to a new house. But uprooting our lives wasn't an easy decision, especially with Emily. We wanted stability for her, not constant fear and change. Days turned into weeks, and despite our heightened security, the tension was palpable. Every noise at night, every unfamiliar car in the neighborhood kept us on edge. One evening, as we were putting Emily to bed, the doorbell rang. Lisa and I exchanged a worried glance. "Stay here," I told her, heading to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a familiar face. Emily, Megan's old friend who had warned us before. I opened the door cautiously. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I asked. She looked distressed. "Jack, I've been trying to reach you. Megan's been staying with me and things have gotten really bad. She's obsessed with you. She talks about you and Lisa constantly and she's been plotting something. I'm scared, Jack." I felt a rush of anger. "Why didn't you call the police?" "I did, but they said they couldn't do much without concrete evidence. I'm worried she's going to do something drastic." I thanked Emily for the warning and told her to stay safe. Closing the door, I turned to Lisa, who had been listening from the hallway. "This is escalating," she said, her voice shaky. "We need to protect Emily too." That night, we made the difficult decision to move. It wasn't fair to uproot our lives, but Megan's instability left us no choice. We contacted a real estate agent and began the process of finding a new home in a different part of the city, somewhere we could start fresh without the constant fear of Megan lurking in the shadows. In the meantime, We tightened our security measures even further. I worked from home more often to be there for Lisa and Emily, and we leaned on our friends and family for support. One afternoon, as I was packing up some boxes, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Megan. I hesitated before opening it, my heart pounding. The message was simple, but chilling. "You can't hide from me. I'll find you." I showed the message to Lisa, and we immediately reported it to the police. They assured us they were doing everything they could to locate Megan and keep her away from us, but it felt like a weak reassurance in the face of her relentless pursuit. The next few weeks were a blur of packing, house hunting, and constant vigilance. Lisa and I took turns watching the security feeds, and we never left Emily alone for a second. Finally, we found a new home, a beautiful house in a quiet, secure neighborhood. It was everything we had hoped for, a place where we could start over and rebuild our lives without the shadow of Megan hanging over us. The day we moved in, there was a palpable sense of relief. We set up the security system, unpacked, and tried to settle into our new normal. But the fear lingered, a constant reminder of the threat Megan posed. One night, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Lisa turned to me. "Do you think she'll ever stop?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But we're not going to let her control our lives. We'll do whatever it takes to protect our family." Lisa nodded, her resolve matching mine. "We're stronger together, Jack. We'll get through this." And so we faced the future with determination, ready to defend our newfound peace and happiness against whatever challenges lay ahead. Megan's shadow might still be looming, but our love and resilience would light the way forward.